Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Rothkopf, managing attorney of Rothkopf Law Group, an elder care law firm, both in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Welcome to another segment of our continuing virtual Zoom series, the Who's Who of elder law and elder care advocacy in the greater Philadelphia area. We are privileged today, if I can be fully honest, honored to have Betty Long, who is the CEO and president of Guardian Nurses Healthcare Advocates. So, Betty, welcome.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for having me. Happy to talk about this.
It's a pleasure having you with us. And I've been reading about your company, and you do some great advocacy work, and I would love our audience to hear more about it. But let's talk about a little bit of, tell me what Guardian Nurses Healthcare Advocate is all about. What do you do for on the individual's behalf? You know, tell me what your mission is, what makes Guardian tick.
So about 20 years ago, I had family members in the hospital, my aunt and uncle. And my Uncle George had a bleed in his brain, and the resident was trying to tell my Aunt Betty, who was 85 at the time, that he was going to put a breathing tube down my uncle's throat. And Aunt Betty couldn't quite understand. And I thought, what do families do when they have similar situations, but don't really have a nurse in the family to figure it out? So that was really the seed that created Guardian Nurses. And through the last 18 years, we have nurses who are really navigating patients' and families' ways through the healthcare system, whether it be an acute issue or a chronic issue or an elder care issue.
So how many years has Guardian been in business?
So we started in October of 2003. So we just celebrated our 17th anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Companies last 17 years. And obviously I'm assuming you've grown significantly compared to 2003, to say the least.
Yeah.
So like many businesses, it sounds like it was a personal event that was the impetus to start this business, because as I see with our elder care law clients, specifically a caregiver child or a caregiver spouse, I refer to the long-term care system as a maze.
Yep.
And our goal, and I think, we're charged with, and I would say similar to yourself and your nurses in your respective business, we are charged with the goal of helping that individual, or in many cases that family, navigate through the maze of our convoluted long-term care system, and to provide the best possible solutions, and in many cases the best possible outcomes, both from your perspective, a care perspective, and our perspective, arguably both a care and financial perspective. And that's not easy. It's much easier said than done. And I would argue, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, I think the only reason we exist is because our healthcare system in the United States is so confusing. And I think you clearly experienced that confusion with attempting to advocate health-wise on behalf of your uncle.
Right.
So so how does Guardian really address the convoluted healthcare system? Can you give us maybe kind of an example of a case that you would work with, and the type of individuals you work with, and how you solve and advocate on behalf of their healthcare for them?
Yeah, just a recent case, and this is one that we had actually, I think, worked together. We'd referred to your firm. A granddaughter of a 90-year-old man who had repeated hospitalizations and he'd had an underlying dementia, and she had dealt for several weeks with the varying levels of care providers that were involved in her grandfather's case, and she was frustrated. She felt like she couldn't get an answer. She felt like no one called her back. She felt much probably like your clients do, where it's a nightmare to navigate when you're trying to work, have a family, particularly during COVID, when your kids are at home and you're trying to homeschool them. A lot of stuff going on. And a friend had recommended, she called Guardian Nurses. She called and we assigned a nurse to her grandfather and to her. And the nurse went down to the rehab center, the skilled rehab center, and talked with the care team and kind of, got everybody together so that the granddaughter could just be the granddaughter, right? So we had a clinical nurse going into the facility to understand what was going on with the grandfather. Did he have a urinary tract infection? Was that causing his behavior change? So there was a lot of other instances of addressing the care team that the granddaughter didn't know because she wasn't a nurse. So that is a really quick example of how we can wrap our arms around a patient and help a family figure it out. And when I started Guardian Nurses, I knew that there were firms like yours that were helping geriatric care managers, helping elderly patients get through the system, figure out what facilities to go to. But I thought, who's dealing with the acute issues, right? Who's dealing with these instances of we're going to put a breathing tube down your husband's throat, or they're saying grandpop's got dementia, but he's never acted like this before. So that's really what, kind of in conjunction with Rothkopf, is that Guardian Nurses was started because of the difficult, healthcare system.
I think one of the issues that I think you help solve in healthcare is that patients or their family members tend to not be fully informed. And how can one of your clients, patients, however you refer to them as, how can they be a fully activated, knowledgeable healthcare consumer in essence? And I think that's the value you bring to the table. Whether it's, do I need to pay this bill? I get bills all the time from insurance companies or EOB's explanation of benefits, and it could be $25. My son saw a specialist, or one of my kids' dental bills, and I pay it because I don't, right? It's $25, it's $27 copay, it's $105. I don't have the time to get on the phone, and I pay it because and then once in a while I'll get a check back in the mail saying, well, this is covered, or I'll just get a refund check from the healthcare provider. So that's, and I tend to think I'm a knowledgeable individual, and I provide a great deal of advocacy and knowledge for our clients and their caregiver loved ones. But I do that semi-regularly, because who wants to deal with a $5, $10, $25 bill? You just pay it. I don't have time to hang on the phone. And think about all that's going on like that people are paying for things that's not really needed, or they're paying for services that would otherwise be covered by insurance.
Right. Well, and the insurance world is a whole different beast. Think about the clinical world, right? And the fact that the communication in the clinical world is, I don't want to say non-existent, but it's sketchy. And then you have the insurance carriers and all that entails. It's a nightmare. Literally for families who don't have the wherewithal to figure it out, or the time, perhaps.
Right. I know most of you, we were talking, and my understanding of your, your clients and who you work with. Now, my understanding is most of your referrals come from employers, right, on behalf of an employee, correct?
Correct.
And it's related to, I guess, managing an employee's healthcare, really to reduce the overall healthcare cost for that specific large employer. Is that fair to say?
Correct. And it's about the benefit of having someone to help you through the healthcare system. So as an added benefit of your employee at a certain company, you get that. But also there's skin in the game for the employer who's self-funded, right? So they want to manage costs because they know if you go to wherever you think you're going to go, it may not be the best choice for you as a patient.
In over the past 7+ months or so at this point, what have you seen? What are the biggest challenges, I guess, for two perspectives? One perspective for Guardian nurses, healthcare advocates itself. What's your biggest, what's some of your biggest challenges what have they been? And number two, from the employee, the patient perspective, what have you seen some of their biggest challenges?
So let me address the patient perspective first. So I think across the board during the COVID pandemic, we have seen patients reluctant to engage in the healthcare system because they're afraid of going into the facilities, going to the doctor's office. They don't want to be exposed, right? That's the greatest impact. You've read or probably heard stories of the routine care, colonoscopies, mammograms. People aren't getting them because they're afraid to be exposed in a facility. So that's the greatest impact. So now as this healthcare system is opened up, you see more people going in kind of, okay, great. It's safe to go in to get my colonoscopy. So then there's scheduling issues. So that log jam a little bit in April and May and June has now resulted in delays of care. And now you can't get an appointment. You call for an appointment and it's February. Well, that's not reasonable. So that's been the biggest impact on patients. For us as nurses, because our work is mostly mobile and going with patients to facilities, because of the restrictions of COVID and visiting, our nurses have been restricted from going into hospitals occasionally. As the healthcare world has opened up, we've been able to get in, but being able to be there at bedside, ask questions of the physicians when they're actually making rounds so that the patient hears the answer is very impactful. So that has been, as the healthcare system waxes and wanes with opening, we're impacted.
Right, and of course, they're, given as we speak, which is on October 27, as this conversation is being recorded, COVID cases have spiked locally in both New Jersey and PA. Maybe not as much as still compared to other parts of the country, but PA more than New Jersey, actually,
Correct.
from what the statistics I have seen. So the restrictions, or at least visitation restrictions, which have been opening up in hospitals, long-term care communities, of course, may be reduced, and people, like you said, may still, who have been over the past several months, reluctant to go to the ER or visit their healthcare provider, may even be more, unfortunately, even more so.
Correct.
I jokingly say somehow it appears that the positive aspect of COVID is somehow miraculously, at least based upon the statistics, COVID has cured heart disease and stroke. It's a miracle. And obviously, because people are, where are all the stroke victims going to ERs? I know that was certainly in March, April, and May. It certainly, it's come back. So, but still, there's lots of ramifications of COVID. The impact of the overall healthcare system as a whole. Some hospitals, especially community hospitals, are going to have to file for bankruptcy and maybe go closing because of the lack of revenue when non-required procedures were eliminated, medical procedures and such. But I'll give you an example of COVID. And I was reluctant to, I'm sure like others, I was reluctant to go to my dentist for just my 6-month checkup. I postponed it a couple months ago, and I figured, I really should go. It was 8, 9 months since I've been to the dentist. So I went last week. That was a pain in the butt. Normally I don't have any problem. You get your normal checkup, they clean your teeth, the ultraviolet, whatever it is, light, whatever things going on. They put a little suction in the bottom of your mouth. Yeah, you're out of there. An hour later, you're done, right? The dentist comes in and who's a friend of mine. And so I'm not knocking his practice. I like the guy a lot. But, the dentist comes in, kind of blesses your mouth and says, okay, good to go. We'll see you in 6 months, that type of thing, right? So, and the dental hygienist does most of the work, of course. So, but with related to COVID, she says, well, she tells me, well, this is a procedure. It may be a little uncomfortable. They put like something on the side of my mouth in addition to the regular suction. I couldn't tolerate it. I was like a big baby. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like freaking out. I wanted to strangle her. Get this out of my mouth. And it was like, kept my mouth open. It was so uncomfortable. But this was COVID. I don't know. I mean, and she says, well, you're the only person who's reacted this way. I said, I don't know. So they had to have a second person come in. And because of COVID, they wanted less particles in the air, I guess, from the mouth. So they put the second piece in. So I had to have like a big baby. I had to have a second piece in and like a second suction, like they just wrap it around. And that was fine, but I couldn't tolerate it. I'm not going to go back to the dentist now until COVID is done. I'm sorry. I'm done. Whether that's 6 months or 5 years, call me when COVID's done. I'll go back to the dentist. Unless my teeth are falling
Thanks for the warning. I have not.
Okay. So, I mean, but yeah, I was like, this is awful. And I felt kind of embarrassed. I'm like, sorry to be such a rough patient, but I couldn't tolerate it. I just couldn't sit there for that thing. Anyway, enough about me. So, but that's, I'm just saying, or for foregoing medical care, I don't want to go back to the dentist. So anyway, so if someone, if someone wants to wants to get in touch with Guardian and they need a healthcare advocate, either their parent is in the hospital, they're in the hospital, not getting answers, and they're just lost in the long-term care system. They're hearing different things. How do people get in touch with yourself and Guardian?
Yeah, and they can always look us up on the internet. Our website is guardiannurses.com, or they can call our toll-free number is 888-836-0260 and talk to a nurse and see if it's an appropriate, if we can help.
Fantastic. So they do great work. Our office our Rothkopf Law Group has utilized your services, and Guardian Services do a fantastic job. So and it's 11:21 now, and it's still morning. And Betty, what I can tell you is, if this was towards 5 o'clock now, I would. And it's getting towards happy hour. I know you enjoy wine like I do.
Yeah.
And I would say go open that wine refrigerator next to you. Take out a bottle, and we'll have a drink together. And the only thing I do not have wine, Betty, and it's early. I do have some Glenlivet here, but not even opened. So, but that's all I got. But it was after 5. Well, I would do a toast with you, but the day is still young. I have 5 or 6 appointments on the calendar left. Right. So I think for the sake of my clients and giving them quality advice, we'll pass on the on a little nip for now. But
well, it's a thought that counts, Jerry. Thank you.
You're very kind. Thank you very much. So Betty, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for your time. Keep up the great work that you and Guardian does. So thank you. Thanks so much. Appreciate you volunteering.
Take care. Bye-bye.